theory, we should be up. Yep. Hey there, Facebook. Y'all bear with me while I remember to hit record and get Facebook all the way up and running on my phone. All right. And then if you want to go to my page, Everyone's Place, and you want to grab it from my page and stream it onto yours, you totally can. All right. Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to another episode of Acupoints, Black Acupuncture Meet and Greet. Today we have a friend that I actually get to meet in person. We've been friends and classmates and colleagues for a little while, but this is the first time we've ever had a chance to talk. This is Dr. Bashara Wilson, and we actually went to Peaches together, Pacific College of Health and Sciences. Welcome, Dr. Wilson. Thanks so much for coming on with us today.
Thank you for having me.
It is a joy and a pleasure. So for those of you who've never seen the show before, basically, Acupoints is a... Oh. Acupoints Black Acupuncture Meet and Greet got started simply because I did a show for a school in Seattle, and I encountered a young lady who had never seen a Black acupuncturist before. And as a Black acupuncture student, she was so happy to see her own face being represented that we thought it was a really great idea to make sure that you guys got a chance to see a different Black acupuncturist all the time. So we have my dear friend, Dr. Wilson, here today, who likes to play with herbs. And we're going to be talking a little bit about some kitchen medicine and different things that you guys can do for yourself. Dr. Wilson, how long have you been in practice?
I've been in practice since 2002, 2003, officially 2003.
Nice. Well, thank you for joining us. And what school did you attend back in the 2000s?
Well, I started at PCOM. Well, when I started the first semester, it was still Pacific Institute of Oriental Medicine back in 98, around this time, fall, autumn season in 98. And then it changed to Pacific College of Oriental Medicine. And now, what is it? Pacific College of Health Sciences?
I remember it because I call it Peaches.
I like that.
Pacific College of Health and Sciences. One of the Peaches students. Because I couldn't remember either. So Pacific College of Health and Sciences, which is where we met.
Yes, during the doctorate program.
So I'm glad that I got a chance to meet you. I'm glad more and more people are beginning to participate with some of those online programs. And so back in 1998, before PCOM had even a different name, can I tell you something trivia I did not know? I did not know this was a third name change for Peaches. What got you into traditional Chinese medicine?
Well, I'll take it back. Probably since I was young, I always said I wanted to be a scientist when I grew up. And that kind of changed in my teenage years, became popular and started doing sports and all of that stuff, and went to college undergrad. And I was like, the one thing I'm not going to do, if I can, is math and science. And so undergrad, I went to Wesleyan University in Connecticut. Great school, got a lot of folks coming out of there that are doing their thing now in different ways. And probably around 96, I started meditating and things like that. And already before that, probably when I was around 13, my mother started buying certain health books like Queen Afua's book, Heal Thyself, and Dr. Africa, Rest His Spirit, Bless His Spirit, African Holistic Health, and a couple other books, the book on, was it colon health or something like that. And so she had a bunch of books around the house I would just flip through. And once I got to college, I started meditating, started studying a lot of metaphysics, Deepak Chopra, and Taoist meditation and things like that. And so my senior year, I majored in African American Studies undergrad. And my senior year, for my senior project, I wrote a book called Good Health and Well-Being for African Americans. And so from that, no time, minor hair, and I had a big old afro at the time, was reading all of the quote unquote conspiracy books. I was like, bump the system. I'm not going into corporate. I'm not I didn't want to become a teacher. I didn't want to go back and get my master's in African American studies. I was like, I want to be a herbalist. And so I saw in this newspaper, the Village Voice, they had an advertisement for a couple open houses for a couple schools. Went and visited a couple schools. They didn't have a herbs program, just acupuncture. And I really wasn't interested in the acupuncture piece like that. So when I went to Pacific, I went on the tour and I saw the herbal pharmacy and I fell in love with it immediately and was like, I want to study this, but I don't want to do all of that acupuncture and all that other stuff. And they were like, well, at the time, interesting enough, it was a certificate program. But they were like, this semester, they were getting fully accredited for the masters, the New York campus, because PCOM was in San Diego, and so the New York campus was being certified by the state and nationally to get the masters. So I was like, I can get a master's in an accredited master's in natural medicine and acupuncture be a profession. So I just went for it and jumped in. And the main thing, like I say, I was interested in was the herbs. And it was a blessing because with the program, we got everything that we do, the acupuncture, herbs, the tween-arm massage, of course, the cupping and moxibustions, qigong, tai chi, all of the Western medicine, and, the best of both worlds. So in that time, and like I said, I started in 98, fall of 98. That's 22 years ago. Wow, that's half my life ago. That's crazy. That's crazy. And so
time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, right. So like in 99, I had a chance to visit China and Tibet. So I spent about a month out there. And then in 2001, I went to Africa twice. I went to Senegal and the Gambia on one trip, and I went to Ghana on another trip, kind of work, but also pleasure and let me see, just, going back to the motherland. And, finished in 2002, got my license in 2003 and been practicing since then.
Nice. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And what is the name of your clinic out there in New York? For those of you who want to know where to find Dr. Wilson, he is in New York. What's the name of your clinic?
New York Sports Acupuncture.
New York Sports Acupuncture. And that is needle in there. So how has COVID changed your practice?
Oh my goodness. So with my acupuncture practice, I'm Brooklyn based. And so I had a good practice. And in March, everything shut down. I think it was March 18th to be exact. And acupuncture wasn't seen as essential medicine. And so we had to shut down along with everything else. And already, folks are already worried and scared about COVID. So I was putting a lot of folks on herbs. And the pharmacy that I get my herbs from that were doing a lot of my work, they were overwhelmed, you can imagine, by like a lot of other practitioners. So they kept putting up that the clinic is closed or the pharmacy is closed. We're not taking any more orders. We're getting to the orders as we get to them, if we'll get to your order. And so this happened like 2 or 3 times. And so I was like, this is not going to work. So my spirit was like, hey, you need to rebuild your pharmacy. Because when I first started, I had my own pharmacy. So I went to Chinatown here in New York and just started sourcing my own herbs from local sources that I knew about. And, just helping people, posting stuff on Instagram, posting things on Facebook, friends of mine, clients of mine, family, starting to ask for herbs, and people getting sick. And so people started referring their friends and family to me. And a good friend of mine, he referred one of my folks, DJ Trauma, who's a popular DJ in New York. He has a big podcast, So Shameless podcast, and I helped his mother out. She was sick with COVID, and I helped her out, and she was feeling better within like a day or 2.
Excellent.
And so he started, just promoting me and talking about the work I was doing. on his podcast, and I woke up one day and just my inbox was full of messages and friend requests from people that I didn't know. And so I realized that was him, because I didn't know he was DJ Trauma. I just knew him as, Jamal, a friend of a friend. And come to find out, he's a big time DJ. And so that's been a really big blessing. And so with my practice, it's been great dealing with people around the herbs specifically, because now, instead of my practice just being New York based or Brooklyn, like really local to New York City, 5 boroughs, maybe a couple people from Jersey come in here and there, to now through Zoom and just through Instagram, it's become a national practice. I have folks out there in Cali, Texas, Atlanta, Maryland, DC, everywhere in between, Oregon, and just, helping folks all over the country. So, it's been great. And I've been really enjoying this model, getting back to the essence of what brought me into this field in the first place, which is herbs. So, I'm enjoying it.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing. I know that a lot of people's practices had to go through a significant change, and you're definitely one of the individuals whom I enjoy watching on social media, of these great, big, beautiful herbal prescriptions that you're putting together. Now, me, myself, I'm a tiny sword swinger. I love to stab people with my little pens and to make them feel instantaneously better. And I'm having to rethink myself, like, how am I going to continue to reach the populace? Being that you can't pin everybody, and I'm doing what I can to help spread the joy and the love of this medicine, and it's one of the reasons why we do the show, right? So, do you have a favorite point that you want to share with our listeners before we jump into tonight's topic?
Favorite point.
Favorite point.
I would probably say there's a point in the lower back. The first thing that comes to my mind, of course, is like stomach 36, but I wouldn't necessarily say that's my favorite point. It's a point in the lower back near like bladder 23,
Okay.
but it's off to the side in the, oh my goodness, I think it's in the quadratus lumborum, to get all
32?
technical. No, it's like a motor point. One of the points I learned with
GB31?
sports medicine. No. It's like a local, we call it a motor point, where it would be close to like UYAO or maybe UB52, bladder 52, both of those points. But,
Okay.
and I love working with that point because a lot of people get like low back pain. And also I would say bladder 23. A lot of people with like low back pain and from sitting a long time at their jobs, and it's just not healthy to sit.
All the
And
time.
the way I was taught with sports medicine acupuncture, training program I did with Matt Callison, and even doing like work on like cadavers, you can go pretty deep into the body. Even on like elderly folks, when you're talking about like the lower back, there's a lot of muscle. By the time you get past the skin, the fat, the adipose tissue under the skin, into the muscle, all the way down. So with the lower back, I usually use like 2-inch needles, 2-inch needles, 2.5-inch needles, usually around like between 2.5-inch needles. And sometimes I'll stick that point in, I'll go. And this doesn't happen all the time, but the muscle will fasciculate. It'll jump.
Yeah.
And I've had people, and unfortunately, it can be kind of painful for some people because it'll cause their whole muscle to like spasm up. But I have enough experience with the results of it to kind of just tell them, just relax, kind of breathe through it. And maybe at 30 seconds or so, it kind of settles down and I don't touch it at all, and I may hook that up to like the electric stimulation machine, put it on a gentle, a gentle pulse, like one hertz, whatever, where it's just kind of beating at the same pace of the heart, one beat per second. And I'll let them chill out there for maybe about 20 to 25 minutes. And if it spasms like that, when I take the muscle out, when I take the needle out, a lot of times the needle will come out looking like this.
Yeah.
With the lower back. I mean, I had one person, I don't even know how her back did it, but her back literally turned the needle into like a hook. It was like a circle. Like I was like, how did it circle totally around? And so with that point, people will usually be sore for like 2 days, but when the pain goes away, the whole pain goes away. So that's one of my favorite points to do.
Well, then let's go ahead and move around towards today's topic. I like a good back needling. I go out to see Chris Randall way out in Oakland to get my sports medicine acupuncture. My favorite needle with him is the one that's midway between the top of the iliac crest and the trochanter to get that
Getting the piriformis in there.
Yeah, to get that gluteus minimus.
The gluteus minimus. Oh yeah.
That's my favorite point.
See, I'm
But
always gluteus medius, gluteus minimus. My
all
apologies.
All of those. So today's topic, we are talking a little bit about food as the forgotten medicine and herbs that are forgotten medicines and the different things that we can include into our regular life. And so I'll let you take it away.
All right. Oh my goodness. So when we look at what we intake into our body, we take foods, our basic foods that we eat, rice, I don't know, collard greens, chicken, your basic fruits and vegetables.
You are from the South, aren't you?
Yeah, my family's from the South. I was thinking about my godmother, bless her spirit too, because every Sunday you would go to her house and I guarantee she cooked rice, collard greens, and either baked chicken or fried chicken, usually baked chicken on Sundays. So
yeah, I knew you were from the South because my great grandmother and that's a family tradition. Is like that is a Southern meal right there. He said collard greens.
Well, I'm born and raised in Brooklyn, but my mama and them and all of them, they from the South, Sumter, South Carolina. A piece of my nephew Dion, I see he's on. So, he's down there and raised and born and bred down there, down south. And so, it's a whole lot of foods that we can get, all of our greens, the collard greens and kale, spinach, cabbage, turnip greens, mustard greens, now stuff like bok choy and all of that sort of stuff.
Yep, including like the tops of a lot of vegetables people don't realize that you can eat.
Yes.
Pepper leaves,
all of those things.
Right? Beet tops, all of those things. Even carrot tops, even though they're really a little too bitter for me, but they make good bone broth.
Yeah, and they're kind of a little tough. Like one of my folks, he makes pesto.
With carrot tops?
With carrot tops, yeah. Yep.
All
right. Yep. Another one of our colleagues. He makes pesto out of the carrot tops. I haven't, gone that far with it. And so, and then too, a lot of people, if they really look at what they eat, they really don't eat that much of a variety of foods. People eat the same couple vegetables. If they're not like a plant-based or really cognizant of their diet, they might just be eating corn, string beans, broccoli. I don't know, kale has become popular in the last 20 years. I don't remember kale. I didn't eat kale growing up. Kale's something I've only eaten as a
collards.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Collard greens, turnip greens, mustard greens, spinach, and cabbage. That was about it.
That was about it.
Yep. And so herbs, we call it the forgotten food because herbs are the parts of plants that we wouldn't normally consume as like foods. Herbs are like the leaves of plants, the seeds, the bark, the berry, the stem, the flower, the roots, the rinds of certain fruits. Like if you go outside and look in your yard, that tree is medicinal. Or that weed that's peeking up through the cracks, a lot of times that might be like dandelion. At least here in New York, might be some dandelion or plantain or purslane. Yep. Or clover, white clover or red clover. And all of these things are excellent for like cleansing the blood. And the ones that I named are good for like cleansing the blood. There's a lot of ginkgo biloba trees all around Brooklyn and New York in general. There's all sorts of stuff. And we call that the forgotten foods because it's an aspect of our diet that's just missing.
Yeah.
We look at our body like look at the foods like a computer program, and there's certain programs that we're getting from the planet that if you're not into herbs and stuff, you don't necessarily get. And so a lot of ways that folks will get herbs into their diet if they're not drinking herbal teas is through food. So stuff that we might cook with culinary herbs like your garlic, your onion, rosemary, basil, pepper, black pepper, cayenne pepper, tarragon, marjoram, all of these different things, they have a medicinal quality. In fact, one of my favorite blends is curry,
Oh, yes.
because
The cure for all that ails you, and people do not realize that.
exactly. I mean, when you look in India and parts of Asia, well, specifically India, where we get a lot of the tradition of curry from, there's billion people or hundreds of million of people out there, and you have to take care of these people. You can't afford to have all of these people getting sick. And so they took the curry and was like, here, cook everything with this. And when you look, I mean, they're curry leaves, but when you look at the blend of curry, it's like 12, 13 different herbs in there. And a
Yeah.
lot of these herbs are the herbs that have come out over the past maybe like decade or 15 years or so as like these super herbs that are anti-cancer and anti-heart disease and anti-diabetes. And so what they did, they just made it part of the
Anti-inflammatory.
culture.
Uh-huh.
Right, anti-inflammatory, exactly. And what they did, they just said, we're going to make this part of our culture. And so they say, hey, curry your vegetables with this, curry your chicken with this, curry your goat with this, curry your whatever you're making with this, and it's going to get into the body. Now, out there, they still deal with a lot of issues around, quality of their water, dysentery, and in different areas because, still just the infrastructure is not like that. But they're not dying of like heart disease and cancer and high blood pressure. These are like diseases that people get when they come here.
Yeah.
Or any sort of
Standard
city.
American diet.
Even when you look at like ancient civilizations, that's where diabetes and all of that pops up, because when you got people chilling in the city, there are going to be some bakeries that pop up that are making sweets, and people aren't exercising and working as hard and still eating a whole bunch of junk. Like junk food isn't something new for today. Like junk food is something I think that people just make in cities from whatever, and then get different diseases based around that.
I think curry is like one of the best examples. One of my current pet peeves around food medicine are the people who want to take turmeric, and I'm like, you don't take turmeric, you cook it, and then you're going to get all the benefits of turmeric is if you cook it with fat and a pungent dispersing herb like pepper or ginger, because this turmeric isn't going to cut it. You're not going to get any of the health benefits of it that way. So having an adequate food vocabulary with lots of fresh herbs is one of my favorite topics with my clients. Make sure that you are eating well, because food is the first medicine.
That's right. I mean, when you look at any scripture, when you look at like in the Bible, in Genesis, first chapter, this is like after, going through creation story from the Bible and stuff, after everything was created and everything was chill and all of that was settled down, it was like, all right, what was it said? Vegetables shall be your food, the plant shall be your food, and the herb shall be your medicine. Like that's like first, before the 10 Commandments, before even getting out of the biblical story of Eden and stuff like that. That was one of the first like instructions was, the plant shall be your food, and then the herb shall be your medicine. And that's what we've done from ancient times. Every religion, every people around the world have depended on the earth to take care of them. These are all earth-based medicines. And so, yeah, go ahead.
And so I was going to say spices are what drove a lot of the trade that
Right.
we had during the first couple of centuries of recorded human civilization, is that people wanted spices. They wanted cinnamon, they wanted cardamom,
Mm-hmm.
they wanted these spices because spices were the things that were going to keep you from getting sick, both in terms of preventing things like gastrointestinal upset, and these same spices were the same things that were being used for a lot of medicines. And so
Yeah.
Jennifer was saying she loves curry. Her paternal grandmother is from the islands. Yeah. And so turmeric and curries, this blend, right? You can find curry like all over the world. Curry, you can have Indian curry, you can have West Indian curry, you can have
Mm-hmm.
curry, you have Thai curry. Like curry is this idea of putting multiple spices together in a pot and letting it simmer for an extended period of time, so that again you get health benefits. And a lot of those same ingredients found in a lot of curries are actually digestives. Like they will help you digest your food.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
thick. And and people are like, pumpkin spice. Well, what's the craze with pumpkin spice? I'm like, they're digestive herbs.
Mm-hmm.
Like they in traditional Chinese medicine we say they help out with your middle jiao, which is your digestion. It helps you to be able to get through the heavy foods that we all begin to eat at this time of year.
Yeah. And the foods that we eat this time of year naturally,
Mm-hmm.
because at least here, like I say in New York, starting to get chilly. Even
Yeah.
already starting to get chilly. Like on Friday, it was like I think like 30 something degrees. I was breathing and seeing my breath and all of that. It was like an early winter. And so
Don't miss the
um
East Coast.
yeah. And that's another thing too, in terms of with diet and stuff, is like eating seasonal foods.
Mm-hmm.
We can go to supermarkets and get um all sorts of foods. Like whenever you can get watermelon in January. It might be pink and disgusting,
But you can get it.
but you can get it. Same thing, mangoes. You can get mangoes all time of year. But like I remember um a couple years ago, I went to a local farmers market, and I love to get and I love to cook squash, the yellow squash and zucchini. And so every week I would go get a couple squash and zucchini, hook it up with some onions, and just lightly saute it and just let it cook down for my family. Nice little recipe I got from my mother. And we had the first chill like we had the other day. And so when I went to the farmer's market the next week, I was like, yo, what's up? Where's the squash and zucchini? He was like, oh, it's done. That last chill, that was it. Like once it gets that first chill of the year, that ends it, because the zucchini and squash
Don't
is a
like it.
summer vegetable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now we're starting to get the winter squashes, um the butternut squash, and the some of those ornamental squashes, the pumpkins, the was it kabocha? Was it called
Kombucha, it is a
kabocha?
favorite up here in my
Right,
house. We eat a lot of kombucha.
right. And so now's that time where those things are starting to come out. And so those are going to naturally help to support our bodies in this season. And if we eat the wrong thing, it'll be a reason to throw our body off. Like some of the greens that are out now are like the you can get the chard, the
Chard, the dino
collard
kale's coming
greens.
back.
Yeah,
You can
yep.
still get chrysanthemum leaves. Like I'm sad because I can't get any more nettles. People think that nettles is a tea that you drink. I'm like, no, nettles is something that you can throw around with some garlic and olive oil. Nettles are delicious,
Mm,
right?
I've never had it like that. Okay.
What? What? Oh, bruh. I'm fat for a reason. I like food.
Yes.
You, I can't get amaranth greens. People know amaranth as a grain, but like the leaf,
Hmm.
tasty and very edible, and I use it in place
Yeah.
of God, what do you call it? Saltfish and help me out. Saltfish. God, it's not saltfish, aki and saltfish. Callaloo. I use
Okay. Uh-huh.
greens in place of callaloo because a lot of these greens and different things that we don't eat have a really high nutritional profile. And
Hmm.
a lot of the trace minerals that you're trying to get through a pill, a tablet, or a potion are found in these unusual greens. So go out to your local farmer market and see what's available. Chrysanthemum greens are another one that are really, really delicious, nicely sauteed, again with a little olive oil and garlic. It's my favorite way to cook anything green. Is it green? Yes, olive oil and garlic. Slide it around for a minute. It'll be delicious.
Real.
So we definitely do need to be paying attention to what's in season. It is those things that are in season that are going to have things for your body to fight off, like increased amounts of vitamin C, vitamin A, and zinc. Those are the kinds of things that you start finding in those.
That boosting your immune system and all of that.
Mhm.
And the great thing with that too is that when you buy stuff that's in season, you go to the farmer's market, they'll give you so much because they're trying to get rid of it.
Yeah, man.
They'll give you a whole bunch and it's like a couple dollars. And oh, excuse me. What's going on here?
Yeah, I can't see your comments.
I don't see any comments on my
Okay.
side. I'm just my computer's over here.
Uh-oh, Mercury in retrograde, y'all.
Yeah.
So talking about things that are in season, pomegranates are in season right now. They're
oh my goodness, yeah, pomegranates are
man. Pomegranates are great for your heart. They're great for your immune system. They're super high in vitamin C. This one, as you can see, is super sweet. Like it is splitting, is ready to be eaten. We love pomegranates in here. You can garnish them with like a little bit of cilantro and lemon juice and a touch of honey. Man, that's like manna, right?
Wow.
Another that I brought.
Wait, give me that recipe again. You said
take your pomegranates.
Yeah, seeds.
If you chop the tops and you chop the bottom, then they're easy to split. And then you take a little bit of lemon juice, cilantro, and honey, and just.
You don't pop the seeds out first?
Yeah, that's what you do. You
okay.
You cut the tops off, you cut the bottoms off, and then you can split it and get all the seeds out.
Seeds out. Okay.
Get the fruit seeds out of it, right? And when you have your little bowl of pomegranate berry, or whatever they're called.
Seeds, yeah, they're seeds.
Pomegranate seeds. When you have your little bowl of pomegranate seeds, you can sprinkle a little lemon juice or a little lime juice, a little cilantro, and like a spoonful of honey, and that's some good eating.
Wow.
Eating right there.
Wow. I've never heard that before. I just eat them straight. Like I never thought about putting cilantro and you said cilantro and lemon and some honey.
Cilantro, lemon, and just a pinch of honey. Not a lot. You're not trying to like
that's crazy vitamin C. That's going to break up.
It's crazy vitamin C. So
strengthen up the lungs and all of that sort of stuff.
All of that. The
strengthen the blood, the liver, everything.
All of that. So it is a favorite snack in here. That's again why, and that's why I found like the particularly juicy ones to make sure that my kid is going to eat them. Another one that you guys see on my Instagram all the time is this crazy looking dude. Coming at you. So
Buddha's hand. Yeah.
Buddha's hand, a full shoal in traditional Chinese medicine. This guy is good for stress. And he's good for your lungs and he's good for your digestion. And it's a citron and you don't actually get anything sour out of it. It's actually mildly sweet and it has a really strong lemon scent. And so the reason why I love this is because you could chuck this in some tea with some Asian pears, which I was supposed to have sitting over here and I don't. And this is a really good tonic for your lungs. You can just take a couple of pieces of Asian pear and a couple of pieces of Buddha hand and simmer them with like a little cinnamon or a little ginger. And as we're bracing for the twindemic, may it not pass.
Word.
If you have that dry hacking cough that you can't shake and you don't know what to do with, like these are some of my favorite recipes to deal with that and to kind of help strengthen up your lung. You got some favorite recipes over there, Dr. Wilson?
Oh, I'm like the super nerdy herbalist, but let me see. I'm here in Brooklyn. I'm like a honorary Caribbean person. Everybody from the islands always swear I'm from their island. They swear I'm from Jamaica or Haiti, Guyana, Trinidad. I go to the continent, they think I'm from, I'm Fula or Wolof, whatever. But like sorrel is really good. Sorrel, and people make that with like some ginger and some clove, allspice, some things like that. Try not to add too much sugar. I do a lot
because sorrel is so sour. You want to add sugar to it, but don't do it.
Right.
And sorrel is crazy high in vitamin C. People don't realize that.
Yeah. Sorrel, that's in the same family as like rose hips and things, right? Too, right? Yeah. Trying to think of some basic things like this time of the year. You want to do like fresh ginger, especially coming in the house from outside. If you might have like a little chill, one of the things we use with fresh ginger, you can cut up a couple slices of that, boil that for a couple minutes, and drink a nice strong ginger tea, either straight like that or with some honey. What that's going to do, that's going to cause like a light sweat. And that sweat opens the pores to, we say, release the exterior. It helps to open the pores to to let out that cold, let out that wind, so that it doesn't go deeper into the body and cause the stiff neck.
Wait, over there. I know, brother. Thank you for hanging in there.
And cause
I
a stiff neck.
shake that infection off real fast. Ginger is a wonderful thing to add to
Yeah.
regular diet and most of your recipes. Cool thing about ginger, I don't know if you know this one or not. You guys are getting a little older in life, like some of us, right? You can take ginger, fresh ginger. You
see a couple
grays. Man, look, just because you can't see them, don't mean they're not in there. And
yeah.
You can't see what's happening down here. So you can take fresh ginger, you can slice it thinly or put it on a cheese grater, and you can steep it for 15 or 20 minutes. And then if you have arthritic fingers or arthritic toes, you can actually soak your digits in that ginger tea, and that'll help to protect you from the hawk, as we call it back. Mm-hmm. Help to protect you from the hawk and the cold that's out there, that makes a lot of people feel really stiff. You can also make a poultice out of it, and you can put it over a sore elbow or sore knee joint and let it sit for 15 or 20 minutes. You put a piece of gauze in between yourself and the ginger juice, and that helps to keep those joints nice and loose and keep you stiff with that winter arthritis.
Nice.
I love kitchen medicine. That's the stuff right there.
Also, miso soup has that same effect of helping to release the exterior. Miso soup, that's just scallion, tofu, and seaweed.
Tofu and miso. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so the scallion is also another herb that helps to release the exterior. All of those herbs in that kind of onion family. So the scallions, the onions, garlic. How you say you cook everything with garlic and olive oil, I cook all greens with onions. And onions, olive oil, sea salt, and Italian seasoning. Just straight mixed Italian herbs. I cut all my greens. I mix them all together. I chop them up, or I'll put them through the slicer in the food processor and let them cook really thin. And put all of that in a big pot, and I cook it on really low. I'll put the fire on maybe like 2, like between 2 and 3, like really close to the 2, and just let it cook on really low. And you probably take my greens probably about an hour and a half to cook, and them joints just come out like, my joints is like locally famous, That's yeah. So that's also an excellent remedy for this time of the year. All of the different greens you have, your collard greens that's out, like you say, the kale, your turnip greens, mustard greens. You can mix all of your cabbage, and you can slice them all and actually mix them all together in the same pot, and that's going to really strengthen the body and give the body that fortitude. I tell folks, with all of the advancement and everything medically and kind of new agey, whatever, just stuff that we think we're all fly, I haven't seen too many people beating my grandmother and grandfather and them that all live. My great aunt, she just passed this year. She was 99. And that was like COVID related. She probably would have lasted another couple years possibly. Yeah. And she grew up eating. These folks grew up poor, but they grew up farming. Eating stuff right out the ground. I remember snapping peas when I was younger, lima beans and all of this sort of stuff. And those foods were organic.
Yeah, because it was coming out of somebody's backyard. I remember when I would visit my great grandmother when I was little, we weren't allowed to throw away our bones. Like when you finished and you had a steak bone or you had a chicken bone, or if there was a ham bone, you would get yelled at if you tossed some bones, and all of those bones and all of the heels and peels from all the vegetables all go into a pot. And then the next day you're like, ooh, what is this brown stuff that's just been sitting here cooking since last night? There's a lot of lost nutrition that goes into the stuff that we throw away that we consider undesirable. Speaking of heels and peels, which you can't quite get at this time of year anymore, but like watermelon rind has like a lot of nutrients in it, and that's watermelon that we throw away. Yeah. But a lot of trace minerals in watermelon rind, and it's good for your face. Nice. Start doing some stuff on facial rejuvenation and how to take care.
Yeah, like the rest of the watermelon rind is going to be really cooling. So that time of the summer, like I remember when I was younger, my mother, she was, when she was, like I say, in her started on her super health kick, she's still healthy and taking care of herself. She would like juice the watermelon rind also. You know,
Yes.
I would drink it sometimes, but that was a little hardcore for me. But when you look at a lot of animals, they eat
Eat
all of that.
everything. Uh-huh. They
You
eat.
know what? Yeah, you'll see a elephant. You see the videos. They'll stomp on a pumpkin and then pick up the whole thing and just eat the whole
The whole
thing.
thing,
Yeah.
right? And in traditional Chinese medicine, we have watermelon frost.
Yep.
And so watermelon frost is where you get the rind and you cover it in a little bit of salt and you let it dry out. And it's really great, particularly even for weird things like sore throats. Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of lost nutrition that we don't think about anymore. And we're always rushing to the store to buy something. And I tell my clients, it's like, can you eat it though? Can you find a way to eat this thing as opposed to giving somebody your money?
Mm-hmm.
For it. So
And my wife said they used to rub the watermelon rind on their faces in Georgia.
yes, watermelon rind with a little bit of honey and lemon juice. You make a little mask, you sit it on your face. Anti-aging right there.
Yeah.
Too.
Say that again.
So you take watermelon rind, you grind it up. You can take watermelon rind or cucumber, the really juicy vegetables or fruits. And the secret to like any facial product is adding a little bit of lemon juice. Sorry, I have like these little stray hairs that keep touching me.
Oh.
I got a haircut, but like apparently it wasn't enough. I need to start pulling my hair out of my face. So you take the watermelon rind or cucumber, and you mix in a little lemon juice and a little bit of honey, and then you can make a mask out of this and leave it on your face for 15 or 20 minutes. And it's very hydrating to the face. It helps to lighten up dark marks. You're getting natural vitamin C in there, so it helps out with the elasticity. And honey is very nourishing for the face, and will actually a lot of impurities out of your face. So, a little lost kitchen medicine. And another one of my favorites is coffee. You can take straight up coffee, same thing, lemon and honey, and scrub your face with it, particularly of the fine grain kind of thing. And will help to increase the circulation to your face. It'll help get rid of dark marks. It'll help out with those under eye bags that I'm suffering from right now because I was up too late last night celebrating the holiday with my munchkin.
I need to get my face products game tight. My wife, she got so many different things. Women, just y'all got the toners and the it be levels to it, and
I'm just wash your face with it.
That's what I do. I just wash my face and put some shea butter on, massage my face and keep it moving. But I want to keep my youthful handsomeness, and I might start trying some of these things. Yeah,
try some of them too. Try some of them. All right, Facebook land, it's starting to get late out there. If you guys have any questions, now is a good time to go ahead and start typing them in. We don't have anybody on the Zoom call with us. So if you have any questions for Dr. Wilson or myself in regards to some lost kitchen medicine that you guys can incorporate to begin to help yourself, then jump in there. Otherwise, we're going to keep talking about recipes. And let's see. We are having miso soup with kombu broth, seaweed. So, if you want to talk about some lost kitchen medicine right there, we don't eat seaweed really in the United States. Seaweed is something that you only find people taking advantage of in a lot of Asian cultures. And seaweed is not only high in iodine, which helps out your thyroid, which is great for metabolism, right? But seaweed is used to soften hardness in traditional Chinese medicine. So if you have nodules in your body, then you can use a lot of seaweed. Plus, seaweed is also high in like tons of trace minerals. If you're looking at your B vitamins, your zinc, your copper, your selenium, your magnesium, your manganese, seaweed is it. And there's a whole variety of sea vegetables that you can incorporate. And if you just find the idea of eating seaweed to be distasteful, then you can just throw a strip or two in your bone broth and in your soup. It won't really change the flavor. In fact, it'll give it that umami flavor, which is what people want when they're using things like accent or monosodium glutamate. You can add a chuck or two of seaweed into your foods, and you'll get that umami, that accent flavor without actually getting any of the monosodium glutamate in your food. And then you get those extra trace minerals. So people are like, you shouldn't cook your food. I'm like, you should, and you should make sure you drink the pot liquor that goes along with your food, because that's where half of your nutrients went.
Yeah, when we cook our food also, I'll tell you another quick story. When I was in Senegal and the Gambia, staying out with folks out there, like in the bush, like we were in the bush. I wasn't in a hotel. And I wake up in the morning early We was doing some African martial arts training out there,
Uh-huh.
and I smell this wonderful food cooking. And I go out and there's just mangoes and bread and water. And I'm like, all right, breakfast never come out. We train lunch. I go back in. I smell the same food cooking. All they did was refill the mangoes and the bread and the water, maybe put some sorrel or Marby or something out for us to drink. Also, what they were cooking, that was for dinner. So they would
Mm.
start cooking early in the morning. And it was mostly like stews and soups with rice or noodles or something like that. And so the food was almost like pre-digested.
Yeah.
So when we eat, you know, and they cook, meat and all that stuff. I told them, I was vegetarian. I didn't meat. I think they just probably took the meat out of my
The
particular
bull.
whatever. I was trying not to be too bougie and stuff out there, but I really found it was like pre-digested, easy to cook. You didn't have the indigestion, and so, like you're saying, with cooking the food, a lot of folks are into strictly raw food diets and not cooking their food and things like that. And in the medicine, we say fruits and vegetables have like a naturally cool or cold quality to them. And so too many salads and too many frozen smoothies and all of that stuff, it actually can cool off the digestive fire and do worse for the body long term, especially as we get older. When we're younger, we can do a lot of things in our 20s, but once we get to like our mid 30s to our 40s, we have to, you know, do
Kind
the
of rethink
things
that.
that work with our bodies. And for some people it might work, but I don't see it as like a all around cure all for everything, to just eat raw salads and uncooked fruits and vegetables all the time. So yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
That is definitely not something that we do in traditional Chinese medicine. As I tell people, like if you go out and you just like investigate history and cultures around the world, there's really no such thing as a raw food culture. Everybody cooks food, and most people do long style cooking of their food, where they've
Yeah,
been cooking since the morning. Um, and that's normal, right? You might eat light throughout the day, but there's always this one slow cooked food. All right, we have a couple of comments and questions that are finally coming through. Um, Jennifer says her mother used to put watermelon rind in a tea and to also make a facial mask with it. Emily says, you look great. You look perfectly youthful. I agree with you, Emily. I had no idea that he'd been practicing medicine for 20 years. That was news to me. Um, Emily also brought up that you get a bonus after you boil kombu, that you can thinly slice it and add sesame oil and soy sauce to it with a little seasoned rice vinegar and throw in some tofu, and it's delicious. And that does sound good. Thank you, Emily. I'm going to give that a shot because I do have some kombu in here that was locally harvested that I haven't finished eating. And Christina says, curious, which martial art out in Senegal?
I was training Kupi Ghana in Gumi. And do you know about Kupi Ghana?
Yes, I
Okay,
do. I
all
got the
right,
book right back here
all
somewhere.
right. So my teacher, Heru Orniket, is actually one of the top students of Mfudishi, who wrote that book. And Kubigan is like a mix of African martial arts styles from around the continent. And so, a lot of people just think martial arts, they think the Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, Asian. But when we look at any high civilization anywhere in the world, you have to have a way of being able to protect yourself. And
Mhm.
before the modern advent of guns and firearms, it was hand-to-hand combat. And so there's when I was in Senegal and the Gambia, we were out there training, doing a lot of like the local kind of like wrestling styles with the Fula warriors and the Mande, the Mandinke, and training a lot with them. And was also out there with Ahati Kalindi, bless his spirit. He passed earlier this year. And Babe Shangi, bless his spirit, he passed years ago. And so, it's basically an international African martial arts convention. And, we had a lot of fun and trained with some of the local folks. And a lot of the wrestling moves that they were doing were the moves off of the wall in Kemet. Like if you study ancient Kemet in, quote unquote, Egypt, that folks might know it as, there's some text. One of the caves, I forgot the mountain. It has like an Arabic name now, but they have all of their martial arts. You see them doing these wrestling moves, and you look at it and you're like, what are they doing? And those are the exact same moves. Like we're like, oh, that's the move off our shirt, because we had it on our shirt that we trained in. It was like, oh, that's the move right there. So we get to see the whole preservation of the ancient culture. And so, out there, just in terms of foods, they have a lot of cassava, mango trees everywhere. Mangoes literally like the size of your head, like literally. You have to shake the watermelon. You have to shake it, the mango, to see that it's not a water coconut. That's how big they were. Like I was literally shaking mangoes because I couldn't tell the difference between them and a coconut. And a water coconut. They were so big, some of them.
Wow.
And yeah, a lot of their local herbs and spices, and just the people, and just happening in that way. So yeah.
All right. Thank you for sharing. And yes, I do know about Kupigane and Gumi and Ufundishimasi. I did
All right.
know out there in Baltimore. I have let my practice lapse, but I have never forgot universal form, which is a wonderful thing to do
All right.
your morning. In fact, people in Sacramento have been learning it because there's no Bondo out here. You can get, help me out. Muay Thai. You can get Muay Thai, but you can't get Kupigane and Gumi or Bondo.
Yeah.
All right, out there in Facebook line, I'm curious about how much and what types of tofu do you recommend? Because my acupuncturist always says that too much soy causes dampness. So me personally, I recommend a wide variety of diet. The mistake that a lot of people make is that they eat tofu for everything. Like they have tofu eggs, and they have tofu urki, and they have tofu sausage, and then there's tofu in your processed products. Like there's this tofu everywhere.
With a glass of soy milk.
Right, with a glass of soy milk, and there's soy cheese, and there's soy mayonnaise,
tofu flour, tofu muffins, tofu. Yeah, that's like old school for me. That was like taking it back to like 99, 2000 when folks were doing that. But go ahead though.
Right. No, but I agree with you. Like you get this overabundance of stuff. And so one of the things that we've been trying to impress during this conversation is that you really do need to have a really good food vocabulary. And if you have a good food vocabulary, then it isn't about eating the tofu. It is about eating these variety of vegetables that are readily available at variety of times of the year. And that is what you should be focusing on. Like if you can't name 5 or 6 different gourds, as in like delicata squash, spaghetti squash, kabocha squash, right? Pumpkin, there's different types of pumpkin, like, you got the big orange pumpkins, you have the little small sweet pumpkins, you have your acorn squash, like you have your butternut squash. Like if you can't run through that as a vegetable group, then that is actually what I would tell you to focus on. And then learn to get comfortable with all those different types of gourds, along with, 15, 20 different types of greens, and a whole slew of food, because the world is covered in food, including the things like the clover and the dandelion that grows up out of the cracks that Americans call weeds. But these exact same weeds are good for your kidneys, they're good for your liver, they're high again in trace minerals, particularly B vitamins, zinc, magnesium, selenium, and copper. Like that's the idea. Like increase your food vocabulary so that you're not eating one thing too much. I love tofu, but I'm only going to eat it a couple of times a month. Like I'm just not going to eat tofu every day.
Yeah, same like you're saying.
About that?
I don't really do much tofu. I might, if I don't know, we go to like Chipotle occasionally, and they have the what is it? I forget what it's called. It slips my mind right now. But whatever the little tofu crumbles that they spice up pretty good. That's, we don't really cook tofu in my house. It's not something I was really ever into. Maybe used to go out to vegan, vegetarian, Chinese restaurant and stuff. But even then, we don't do stuff like that much. I'm not big on tofu. It's cool, sofritas. Thank you, baby. Yeah, sofritas, at Chipotle. And so, but yeah, we don't do soy milk. We don't cook with soy flour. Even the plant-based butter used is non-soy, so I don't really do much soy like that. I'm not, occasionally, but it's definitely not a staple at all, pretty much. in my diet. Yeah, I was going to say something else, what you were saying earlier, but it'll come
Yeah,
back to me.
like tofu for me, like it's something that I'm going out specifically. And honestly, I'm going to tell you my guilty pleasure. And I'm so sad because my local restaurant, they made it the best, closed down. I have a thing for salt and pepper tofu, where they fry the tofu up really hard with some garlic,
Hmm.
onions, and scallions and some jalapenos. That, yeah, I would eat that. But like, I'm not a tofu eater, and I'm also not a vegetarian. So I don't really look to tofu as being a food. It's something that I just want every now and then, the same way that I might want anything else every now and then. So definitely work on increasing your food vocabulary. And if you're eating tofu as a meat replacement, then I strongly encourage you to get a good understanding of where your B12 is coming from, because then you'll be less concerned with getting your tofu in. People use tofu as a protein substitute, but most
Hmm.
or vegetarian, they don't have issues with protein deficiencies. They have issues
Right.
with B12 deficiencies, and there are really just not a lot of vegetarian sources of B12. There's not enough B12 in any vegetarian sources to be able to supplement your body's needs long term. So look into where you're going to get your B12 from.
I
Right?
remember what I was going to say.
Go ahead.
So when you was talking about the herbs, like that are called like so-called weeds, oh, you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I don't know what. Okay, I'm back.
All
Um,
right. Digestible
yeah,
weeds.
yeah. So on a spiritual level, a lot of the quote unquote weeds that grow like in our front yard or our backyard are oftentimes exactly what we need for what's going on in our bodies. Like you notice that in front of your yard, you go out, if you know how to identify them, like you said, there might be some red clover and dandelion and plantain, maybe some what's that yellow flower that's good for the skin? What's it called? I forgot.
Besides dandelion, buttercup, sorrel, you have wood sorrel. There's
Whatever. Right.
not comfrey.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. The one
I know
is
what you're talking about. I can't
good for
call it
the
right
skin.
now.
And a lot of these things are exactly what we need. Now, you might want to get another one, not the one that grows right in front, because dogs and car exhaust and everything else, heavy metals in the soil. But a lot of times that might be the exact formulation that you might
Thank
need.
you, calendula.
Calendula, yes,
The
thank
people
you.
are jumping in.
Yeah,
We got a
that's what.
question too, but keep going, keep going.
And so yeah, let's go to that question because we only have a little bit of time left here.
Uh,
Um,
Jennifer says, what type of easiest to digest legumes do you both recommend? I recommend eating them all, eating different kinds of legumes. Um, if you find that they are indigestible to you, cook them longer, or you can add a little bit of baking soda to them to kind of aid in your digestion. But I recommend all of the legumes, including things like boiled peanuts, which is a Southern specialty. You know about the boiled peanuts, Doctor?
of course, they make them too salty though. A lot of times down
So
south,
you
you
make
gotta
your
make it
own.
yourself.
You
Yeah,
gotta
I've
make
never
your
made.
own.
I'm not
You
that
gotta make
country.
some curried boiled peanuts. You gotta try it out. That's
Okay,
delicious.
see, you stunting now. Um, I like to make like my go-to are always like the red lentils. Those
Mm.
cook down really well. A lot of Middle Eastern restaurants, the lentil soup that they make is red lentils, and
Mm-hmm.
so they're really small. And pretty much I'll just bring them to a boil. I usually will cook them again with a little olive oil and salt and curry or turmeric or whatever. Usually it's a little some curry and some whatever green Italian seasoning. Bring it to a boil, just bring it to a simmer, cook it like rice, and it'll cook down. It'll cook up in like 20 minutes to a half hour.
They really do cook fast.
Yeah,
Like
and they cook all the way down. They break all the way up, and it's delicious. And that's one of my go-tos. Quick meal, cooking for the family. My son after school, getting him ready for bed or whatever, or dinner in bed. That's like a real quick go-to. And so I really like the red lentils, and yeah, like you said, just kind of any bean. Sometimes I'll get the mix. It'll have everything in there. It'll be like
10 bean soup.
16, yeah, like 16 beans, barley and all of that in there.
Uh-huh.
Soak it, I'll blanch them out, or you boil it, turn the water off and let it sit for like an hour or two. Then I'll throw that all in the Instapot. And sometimes I'll throw that in there with the squash, whatever seasonal squash, butternut squash, acorn squash, whatever.
They also make a good base for gravy. Like if you find you like you down like your last little bit, you can cook them down and turn them into like a gravy that you want to serve with your roasted whatever. And then you have
Okay.
a nutritional gravy as opposed to making a flour based gravy or a crackling based gravy. Lentils do make a
Okay.
good gravy. Couple of more questions.
Sure.
Sprouted soaked grains and or beans if there's time. Like I don't have a problem with sprouted grains. I still think you need to cook them.
Mhm.
Again, in most cultures all over the world, when you're talking about your starches, starches are cooked, right? A lot of starches are really bad for your digestion if you don't cook them.
Mhm.
Sprout them first to begin to change the nutritional profile. And it changes the nutritional profile because the plant starts to eat itself. And so the nutrients that are available change as the plant is, as the bean, grain, legume is digested. So the nutritional components change. And that's for most things. Like green bananas have a very different nutritional profile than yellow bananas or black bananas. So I don't have a problem with sprouting them. I don't have a preference for sprouting them. And then part of the soaking process will begin the sprouting, right? So if you're doing the old fashioned way of soaking your beans or soaking your grains overnight, you're starting that process, even if
Mhm.
you don't let the process finish because
Yeah.
cook your grain or your bean within the 24 to 36 hour period. But I let mine sit when I'm not being a rushed mom and I have the time and I'm not doing a fast soak. What about you, Dr. Wilson?
Yeah, I mean that's why I kind of cheat with the red lentils and cook those down quickly. I don't really soak those. I just wash them a bunch of times. But like you're saying, it's best to soak it for 2 days. Sometimes I won't do that, but I'll cook it for like overnight in the
Mm-hmm.
Instapot for like 5, 6, 7, 8 hours or whatever, in the Instapot to let it break.
There's a child, excuse me.
We all already know. And so yeah, like I'll go to our Instapot gets a lot of puts in a lot of work in our household for the past couple of years. And so, most stuff that goes in there, my wife make her own bone broth from, whatever bones or fish heads or whatever.
We got to
And
get her up here too. She is
yeah,
a
yeah, she's on here. Dr.
herbalist
Jeanette
and
Bean. Yep, yep.
yeah, and
So
acupuncturist. So there was
yeah.
one more. Someone was asking about kombu to aid in digestion. Kombu absolutely aids in digestion. It also helps to detox the body from heavy metals. And if you really want to help your digestion, there are digestive herbs. Again, your cardamom, your cinnamon, your nutmeg. These things are all digestives. They help your body to process food better, which brings us back to that whole conversation around herpes.
Yeah. Yep, like you say, the basil. Have my little list here. So I'll run through this really quickly. Like
Please
you
do.
look at allspice, for example. It helps with the
Mm-hmm.
digestion, supports the nervous system. It's a natural antiseptic, so it's going to get rid of bacteria and fungus and viruses and stuff like that. Natural painkiller.
Mm-hmm.
Oil is excellent for the digestion, antioxidant. Basil relaxes spasms, so it helps to relax the muscles. Lowers the fever, again, helps the digestion, again, antibacterial, kills parasites, intestinal parasites, basil. So for like colds and flu, bay leaves, a lot of fruits, like they'll put bay leaves in figs um, to get rid of like weevils, like the boll weevils and stuff that might be in like fruits and stuff like that. They'll put bay leaves with that when they're being imported to deter like the bugs. And so, but inside the body, bay leaves are delicious. You'll see that a lot in a lot of the tomato sort of based sauces, and it's excellent for the digestion, antiseptic, improves the appetite. Pepper, even though it's warming, it's going to help to lower fever, help the digestion, helps get rid of phlegm in the body, is very relaxing to the mind, helps get rid of excess gas. Cinnamon is going to help to open up the circulation of the body. That's that warm flush
Mm-hmm.
feeling. It's
Mm-hmm.
literally like blood coming to your hands. So like the cold hands, cold feet. Your cinnamon is going to really help with that. Um, Cinnamon also helps to lower fevers, helps with the blood pressure.
And blood glucose.
Yes, and the blood sugar also. So folks diabetics and things like that, cinnamon, especially our folks in the islands, they take a lot of cinnamon for that. Um, your cloves, everyone knows about clove oil for
Yeah.
tooth pain.
Thanks.
Also good for nausea and vomiting, improves the digestion. We spoke about curry. Garlic, of course, gets rid of bacteria internally and externally. I know folks that have, I remember a friend of mine, her son had like some bump or something on his face, and she literally cut
A
a
piece of garlic.
piece of
Just like
garlic in
slapped
half,
it on there.
slapped it on there, tied it to his face, and left it on overnight, and it was gone. It's also in Ayurvedic medicine in India, it's also used as like an aphrodisiac. So even though garlic can have that smell, it also is aphrodisiac. So get your vibe
Also,
on and stuff.
get your vibe on. It's also a really great antifungal.
Yes,
All things
yes, yeah,
fungus.
yeah. Garlic is, you know, good for all of that. Ginger, again, helps get rid of phlegm, helps to increase the sweating. So again, this time of year when it's chilly out, you come in, didn't dress properly, you want to get ginger. That's something you probably want to drink like every day, like some fresh ginger tea, coming in just to break a sweat and keep that outside, like that outside that can get in, get stiff neck again.
I know
stiff
it's late.
neck,
Come on, you got this. You got this.
stiff neck, cough, body pains, the mucus and things like that is going to help with that. Ginger, of course, is excellent for the digestion. It's good for the liver. A
Also
lot of
good for
women,
food poisoning. Like,
yes.
interesting tidbit. In traditional Chinese medicine, we use ginger particularly for seafood food poisoning, which is why you always find it with your sushi.
Mm-hmm. It's going to kill the bacteria and all of that too. Yep. For morning sickness, pregnant women, is one of the most excellent things for pregnant women that are getting morning sickness is the fresh ginger tea. Marjoram, I don't ever really pronounce that correctly. The marjoram or marjoram, that's excellent also for the lungs, getting rid of mucus, getting rid of headaches, difficulty sleeping. Folks that are anxious, you can cook food with the marjoram. The mustard. A lot of times externally in Chinese medicine, we'll use the mustard plasters or bolsters
Yes.
for lung infections, also for arthritic joints. Some of the old remedies you'll see will have the mustard oil. It's very strong, very smelly, but it's excellent for just knocking all of that out, whether you're talking about arthritis to bronchitis and the congestion in the lungs. So a lot of these things that we're talking about, the congestion, with this so-called second wave coming in, these are all natural things that we want to have in our house for ourselves, for our mates, for our children, for our parents. Nutmeg, again, nutmeg is another one that's used for like a lot of arthritic and rheumatic joints. In my practice, here in Brooklyn, is right off of Nostrand Avenue, which is like the Nile, going across a lot of Caribbean restaurants and, the whole Caribbean massive, and folks would have their little carts. And I remember one guy, he always had a tonic he had for the joints that was just pretty much nutmeg soaked in alcohol. But internally, nutmeg is one of those spices that we use to season a lot of pies and apple pie and sweet potato pie and things like that. And it's also good, excellent for the digestion, gets rid of vomit, relaxes spasm, it's anti-inflammatory, so for the diarrhea, indigestion, stomach pains for the children and all of that. And so with a lot of these foods, we cook them, but there's also medicine. One of the things that really destroys a lot of these foods is just the sugar that's
Sugar.
put in them.
Yeah.
That sugar is what really makes a lot of things bad. But a lot of this food that we would eat during so-called Thanksgiving and the holiday season and Christmas, because this is harvest season. And so we had certain foods in abundance, and so we would get busy. And so we could eat a lot of these foods even in abundance because we're almost packing it in for the winter also. But we definitely this time of year want to watch our sugar intake and salt intake, because that's how a lot of these sicknesses begin to creep in, especially as we get older. Oregano, a lot of people know the oregano oil is very good in terms of
Very good at fighting all the things.
yeah, antiviral, antimicrobial, virus, bacteria,
Bacterial,
fungi, whatever.
fungal,
All
whatever.
of
If it's growing and ain't supposed to grow in, oregano.
yep,
Right. And you don't have to use oregano oil. You can just make oregano in all of your food. You can put it in your
exactly,
beans, you can put it in your pasta,
exactly.
you can put it in everything. Like, don't be such a taker person. Think about the different ways that you can get all these flavors in your food instead of
Hmm.
calories. Right. Keep
And
going.
with
Keep
the oregano oil, you can dilute some of that with some olive oil or shea butter or something like that. You can actually rub that into the chest for bronchitis and asthma and arthritis, muscular pain. All of these are just nice little quick, excuse me, tonics that we can take in. Rosemary, excellent for the liver. One of the things like rosemary essential oil, there was one study that was done which showed that students like nurses, when they diffused rosemary essential oil while they were studying and taking their exams, they did like 30% better. So all y'all folks with your children at home, um, during this time doing distance learning, you can, and peppermint also has the same effect. You can diffuse some essential oil, get one of the little essential oil machines and get a good quality, excellent quality peppermint or rosemary. And that would literally almost make your children, quote unquote, smarter, open
Right.
up their minds more. Um, for folks that are studying a lot, a lot of us went on Zoom all day in these meetings. We can do the same thing for ourselves.
Right.
Rosemary is also excellent for like depression, nervous exhaustion, apathy, headaches, migraines. It's very stimulating. So it helps with
Also good for
all of
hair.
yes, yes. Yep. What is it? What else does it do for the hair? The rosemary.
Rosemary is really good for your hair. It helps to stimulate your scalp. It helps to clean your scalp and it encourages hair growth, particularly if you
Mm-hmm.
go and mix it with like a little rice water, which is like the new craze of mixing things with rice water. Rosemary is excellent for your scalp. And if you're going to use a diffuser, if you're going to use oils medicinally for your hair, I recommend a diffuser and not a burner.
Right.
Right? You
You don't
don't
want to
want to
burn it.
necessarily
Yeah.
be incorporating smoke into your house, although there are some beneficial smokes like sage and so on and so forth. But use a diffuser and not a burner, especially at this time of year. Don't add soot to your lungs if you can help it.
And the stuff that you buy off the street, that doesn't count. So if you're buying like frankincense, like the quote unquote Muslim oils and those fragrant oils you're buying from the brother or sister with the you can get like a big bottle like this of frankincense
Yeah, that's
for
not
like
oil.
$15. That's just smell
That's a
good.
fragrance.
Yeah, that's
You want to
not,
get the essential oil.
yeah. And then with the rosemary too, that's helping with the circulation and all of that. Sage, a lot of folks burn the sage, and we cook with sage also. Again, that's gonna have like an anti-inflammatory effect, depressant, very good for women in terms of it's estrogenic. Helps women with the estrogen, improves the liver, the digestion. Externally, you can put that on like insect bites. It's good for the throat. A mouthwash of that with the throat, the mouth, the gums, skin infections, even like vaginal discharge. Using sage tea is like a douche sort of thing. All of that will also help with that. And we can keep going. It's so many excellent things. So I would definitely recommend everybody just kind of go through your spice cabinet, write all the stuff down and look it up. We're in the information age, and so much we have in our houses that can help us. And so, yeah, again, that's what I do. I love working with herbs. I have over 100 something herbs here in the pharmacy and just been helping a lot of folks around the country with the Rona, digestive issues. And from my experience, I definitely put the respect on the Rona. I won't even say the whole thing because the name sets off all sorts of triggers and stuff. I don't even write it on any of my posts because trying to work in the You know, they got a patent and all that stuff on a lot of those names and stuff, as we know. But I've had folks that were in the hospital, or, you know, didn't go to the hospital but were really sick, and got them some tea, you know, dealing with a lot of the ancient formulas that I might have tweaked according to my experience and expertise. And this, you know, Arona was backing off folks in like 2 to 3 days, literally. One of my first clients, who was referred to me, was a brother who was one of the first responders from 9/11. And so, you know, he already had a lot of pre-existing lung conditions from then. And he was diagnosed with it early. I'm talking about like March, when everything first hit heavy here in New York. I got him some teas, and he was talking about he was ready to go back to work the next day. So, you know, this medicine, it goes really deep. The herbs goes deep, the acupuncture, all of this goes deep. So, yeah, I mean, I know we've been on for a while. Yeah, but we're past the time.
Yeah, the munchkin keeps coming out. He knows it's after 6. It's like, you're supposed to be done.
Dinner time, bedtime, for real.
All the times. I am so happy that you came out, and I really appreciate you running down that list, A through S. You know, we can keep going. There are a lot of herbs, y'all. So try to get fresh herbs when possible. Try to get whole herbs when possible, not necessarily powders, because you don't know the quality of the powder or how long that it's been sitting there. And like really go through your cabinet and try to imbue your food with flavor, because imbuing your food with flavor is giving yourself another level of medicine, something that you can eat as opposed to something that you can take. All right, out there in Facebook land, and Dr. Wilson, if you can hold on and not hang up on me quite yet. I appreciate everyone who came out tonight to join us and enjoy this live conversation. Next week, hold on, I gotta look at the boss. Next week, we have Brother Dexter coming out, and he is going to be talking about acupuncture and astrology and tarot. So come on out. Let's see what the future holds. Thank you, guys. Stay wonderful.
Yep.
All right, stopping one recording and then stopping